Okay. There you go. You're live.
There you go.
Is outside us. Look at the stars. Some of them are a million light years away.
Everyone is taught these lies when they go to school. But I won't go back to the ball. And anyone who doesn't look again must love the rules. I won't go back to the ball. I can't believe I...
Hi guys, someone messed up.
It's all right.
But the whole universe is outside us. Look at the stars. Some of them are a million light years away.
Everyone is taught these lies when they go to school. But I won't go back to the ball. And anyone who doesn't look again must love the rules. I won't go back to the ball. I believe that shit. 'Cause when you take a step back and look at it, everything they show you is CGI. Gotta understand why. You can tell me gravity accounts for space and time, but I won't go back to the ball. 'Cause I won't trust my senses over Newton and Einstein. I won't go back to the ball. I can't believe we believe that shit. 'Cause when you take a step back and look at it, everything they show us is CGI. Gotta ask yourself, so what exactly do you think almost there is proof? 'Cause I won't go back to the ball. All it takes is two clear eyes to see the earth don't move. I won't go back to the ball. We believe that shit. 'Cause when we take a step back and look at it, everything they show us is CGI. You really gotta ask yourself, why don't they just take a photograph?
Hi all. Hiya Howard. You okay?
Great, thanks. Hi everybody.
So today we have Howard and we have Robin with us, and Roxanne may join us or may not, or we'll see her in the chat. So how's the weather over there, Howard?
Ooh, you want me to make you jealous?
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Go on.
It's lovely. I've been for a hike today.
I can't hear him, mate.
With some guys from the whole, the mud flood movement.
Let's just ask the chat room if they can hear.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, both of you very well.
It's probably them beats from Dre, Robin.
You know what? I think Patricia Steer said that she was having problems with the Hangouts, and when you get three people on, sometimes it was someone's audio wasn't working properly. But You can't hear me at all, Robin, or faintly?
I can hear you, but I just can't hear Howard, which is gutting.
How?
Howard, can you hear me?
Yeah,
You can.
perfectly.
Okay, bear with us. I'll see if there's anything I can do about that. Let's have a quick look. See if we can get this sorted out. Default. Let's have a quick peek. Not sure if that's done anything. You can still hear me, everyone, yeah?
Yeah, I can. Can the chat room hear Howard?
Oh,
yeah.
As guests join, hide the... all right, okay. I think I found out why.
There's a dashboard.
Right, can you hear now?
Testicles, 1, 2.
Can't hear Howard.
Still not?
Can you check the dashboard? There's 3 volume levels.
Well, you say that, but there isn't. They've changed the settings. Give us a second, because it says here there's a new thing here now. It says, as guests join, hide their audio and video from my broadcast, and it was on no, where it should be, because we don't want to hide their audio, do we? Broadcasts, the large video. Okay, my guests join. Muted when they join. New guests in my large 3+ broadcasts are muted when they join, and it's on no. So that's all in. It's all in the correct place.
Everyone can hear Howard. Oh, there's Roxanne in the chat room. Hi, Roxanne.
No, you're quite right. As I say, Patricia Thea and Mark Sargent, they're having exactly the same problems with Zoom. He came on, and they all had to do sign language and things.
Well, the chat room can hear. That's the main thing.
They can hear.
You might have to be my middleman, Jason. If Howard speaks, I'm going to have to need you to translate.
Okay.
Yeah. See that?
Right. Okay. Right. Let's. Well, I'll move on. And so. Oh, what a shame! I mean, I'm gutted that you can't hear Howard. But you'll be able to watch it back in later on, won't you? Okay, so let's move on. Otherwise, we won't get through. Okay, so I did a bit of activism this last Sunday, spur of the moment, and I had a few interesting questions. But it's not necessarily about the questions as well, Howard. It's our response to situations and questions, when we're out there on the street. And someone like yourself, you've come across all sorts of challenging situations, not just questions, some things are very difficult. I'm going to play a couple of items. So I'm going to apparently I'm still broadcasting. Oh, sorry. I'm going to screen share. Sorry. So screen share now, and hopefully. So we had this one here. I've called it crowd.
Sean Wilkins is in the chat, Jason.
Who?
Me. Sean Wilkins from, remember Swindon?
Yes, brilliant. I don't know if you can hear that okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Evidence of proof. But no one can give me evidence. You'll give me mathematical concepts of there's no proof. For every satellite that's put up to light. So how can it get in there with the temperatures of, that's basically science.com, if you don't find out how hot it gets in space when radiative heat hits these so-called... Well, where's the radiative heat comes from the sun? But it's only tiny. Sorry? It's only tiny. No, we're talking about what science says, okay? We're talking about your religion. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about your religion. Can I ask a simple question? Sorry. What's on the edge? I don't know. I've never been. There is. We've already done that. There is an Antarctic treaty in place that prevents you from going. So you can't get to the edge.
How does it?
Okay.
When you go on a
one at a time.
when you go on a big airplane flight, okay, and you're as high as you can get. What's the curve?
Okay, so I want you to do it again. Now that you've seen
I've done it about
Oh, yeah,
50 times.
well,
It's the curve of the earth, isn't it?
Okay. So science says that you
No matter which way I'm flying, the curve's still there, so you've got to be flying over it. Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, it may be bent on the edges, the way to the wall.
But it's always there, isn't it?
But the wall, it may be bending at the edges.
Yeah.
and you've obviously, because that would be an amazing thing to see, you took some sort of photographic evidence for that. I mean, maybe it's on your iCloud phone or something.
Maybe it's
or maybe if you've got one.
Millions of
Maybe
people see it every year.
Does anybody else have any evidence of this curvature that no one else can find? Has anybody seen the curvature that's got evidence?
Anyone?
I'm appealing to somebody. Does anyone, has anyone ever taken a photograph of the curvature of this evidence?
Yeah, we all see it.
What I'm saying is
science.
No, you're saying it's light. You've seen it with these things here.
Okay.
Yeah.
That one.
Science.
No, but you're saying there's a lot.
Science. No, you just said that. Science says that you cannot see curvature at the altitudes. That you have to go up, even at 100. What's it?
No, you can. When you're sort of about 40,000 feet, you can see
The curvature. Okay.
Or is it just flattening out at the edges?
Well, I'm
Is
telling
it the
you
way
now,
to the wall?
Science says that you cannot see it from a commercial plane. You cannot. That's not me saying that. I want you to investigate that. Check that out for yourselves. Don't ever believe that the crazy line on the street. You investigate that yourselves. But what I have done is that I've been doing. And people talk about it, but no one has ever offered this evidence.
5 against 1.
So that's appealing to kind of like the majority. You think the majority always wins?
No.
What's happened to your satellites?
Okay, I want to first say, because I was quite annoyed with myself there, because because I apologise to Nathan Oakley. Science is a method. And science doesn't say. So I've shown that because of the interruptions. How do you cope with all the interruptions, Howard? Because, like when we're out there, and you can't seem to finish your your answer. That you keep getting this barrage of the next question, and you just can't seem to finish the question that you're already involved in. So where do you go from there?
When you say first, that was a good thing because you did really well considering how you speak. You did interrupting it. The best thing that you can do is to point out what people's reactions are. You've got to show them the psychology. You've got to show them their program of response because when it's so hard not to get frustrated and take the bait and try and answer everybody because that's your instinct. You want to show them that you know that you're right. Yet they're more bothered about show me the new model, prove me that this is right. Then and it's so good that you guys have turned around and said we're not flat earthers, we're globe deniers because it's the best way to try and avoid getting in that corner. Sadly, we still get pushed into the corner, and I think the best thing to do is...
Jason, everyone's saying they can barely hear Howard. I'm sorry.
Oh,
yeah, it's only because his thing's breaking up a little bit, isn't it?
Okay.
So, Howard, while you're talking, can you turn off your camera for a second, just so that people can see that? Thank you. It might help.
Does that make it better?
Well, we'll give it a couple of seconds and hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Carry on.
What we've got to do is, when people start interrupting us, like Harry does, I think we should turn around and say, excuse me, do you realise how rude you're being? Do you realise your programmed reaction, your programmed response is quite immature? I'm sure you're not normally this rude and immature to people that try to explain their beliefs to you. Because when people start mocking us and insulting us, I turn around and say, hey, you wouldn't be this rude to a Muslim if you were, you're not a Muslim. If you wouldn't be this rude to a homosexual, you wouldn't be this rude to anybody. So why are you all of a sudden biting my head off? Please calm down. It's okay. It's a program. And tell them it's a program. you have been primed, but through negative priming, you have been programmed to have this pride and to protect your beliefs, your faith, your blind faith. And I think you did good for calling them witness, because they need to be pointed out. And people need to understand what negative priming is. The best example of negative priming is when you were in school and you wanted to get away with a crime, and instantly saying the trusted you are going to negative somebody else. And you say, oh, such and such was planted, disgusting. And nobody will think it's you because you were the guy who bring it up and you were the ones putting negative spin on it. That's what the media has been doing to us since we were kids. Telling us that water will fall off the end. The earthers were so stupid. So now when we mention flat earth, or if they insinuate that we're flat earthers, straight away we're in that bucket of preachers, and we're not trying to preach a belief or a model. We're trying to teach people how to reproduce scientific evidence for themselves, and that's what we have to keep hammering on to people. So I think you're doing a great job. I'd just recommend use Harry's trick and point out the psychology and tell them what they're doing, because people don't realize their response.
Yes, that's a really good point. Yeah, I do, because I mean, I was watching Authentic Intent, Josh there, and he's doing exactly what Harry is doing. He's leading people into what questions he wants to ask. Whereas I, like myself, I was getting a barrage of questions, and I wanted to please everybody on every question all at the same time. And yeah, I mean, I'm very critical of myself, and I only see, you know, what I can do better afterwards. What do you think about that, Robin? Interruptions, how do you handle it?
Well, usually if someone's being bolshy, you've got a full right to just be bolshy back. You know, if there's those that are also listening and attentively and politely, then you've got every right to say, look, I'll come to you later. You're just interrupting. Yeah, we'll come back to him because he's just being rude. And then you just talk politely to the others. Because Bath was ferocious. I had a physics teacher, all the graduates, all the undergraduates, all kind of talking to me all at once. And I found you got to address the polite one. You got to try and be as courteous and polite and show that you can be like that with them and lead the conversation, but abruptly stop the other ones. If you can. I mean, it's easier said than done. Bath was ferocious.
Yeah.
But I've had, you know, I remember I've had a group of 3 a couple of weeks ago in St. George's Park that were really quite resistant. But whenever they keep throwing objections at you, you just handle them as best you can. If you get interruptions, though, and someone's just spoiling your flow and you know that that's happening, then you've just got to be really direct. You've got, I think, because you must be able to pick up that they're being slightly rude or, you know, disruptive, and they just want to poo-poo what you're saying. So, you know, in that circumstance, you just try and cut it dead. I think you've got a right to, personally. I think you can do that, because if you switch to being civil and polite with the ones that are attentive, then people will notice that, you know, and they'll say that, and then the ones that are being disruptive have to shut up, because then it's social compliance amongst everybody, because the polite ones are now looking at him going, yeah, you're rude. And if they carry on, I don't know what to do. If they carry on, you just got to try and nip it in the bud. But
I think for myself, I think I'm a little bit like that. I've always used this this technique called mirroring, and basically all it means is that, you know, like whatever sort of tone that they are at, then my tone is mirrored the same sort of levels. It kind of gets me in trouble sometimes, because I don't know if it was shown on that one, I can't remember. Was it one of the chaps turned around and said that, you know, like, oh, is he calling you a liar? You know, and tried to bait me into having a confrontation with another chap. And of course, I'm lifting my tone up exactly the same as what they're doing, and then I can feel I can feel that the levels rising between too many people. You know, so sometimes sometimes it's not a good idea, and I only realize this afterwards when I watch myself backwards and think, oh my god, you know, like
Well,
it comes off. I see myself coming off a little bit too aggressive, and I
So-
don't like who I see.
so if I rewind and go back to Bath and a couple of other, I mean, probably most of the UK tour, I remember I was keen to get in the thick of it, but Harry was working the outside of the group, and he was
Yeah.
looking for the very pensive person, because he knew he could have a thoughtful conversation with a very pensive looking person and maybe not quite as aggressive. So the front line would be the ones that want to have a go, and the ones at the back seem to be, what's this about then? I'm genuinely curious.
That's a good point.
So I you know, if you're on your own, it's kind of tough, and if you're on the seafront where there's lots of people coming by, you just got to take what comes. And David at Zoom Truth, I loved what he did the other day, and he started the conversation with, "Can you feel yourself spinning 67,000 miles an hour?"
Yeah.
Well, apparently we are. And then he moves on to the next, and apparently if we're moving in another direction with the sun, 450, 500,000 miles an hour. Can you feel that? When we look across that water, can you see it moving? Wouldn't it move if we were going all those speeds? Anyway, what do you think? And then he'd lead the conversation that way. And I thought that was brilliant. A brilliant way to start a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to you, Howard. How do you deal with people who are positive? And I don't think they're lying. They are positive 100%. They have and they can see the curvature. How do you deal with that? Oh, you might have to turn your video off again. You're breaking up again.
Is that better?
Yeah, sounds good.
Brilliant. Just before I forget, I forgot to say this before. The best argument I've had when people start asking me questions is to say, look, Earth might be a fourth dimensional shape. So there's no point wasting time theorizing about the fourth dimensional shape as we're third dimensional beings. It's out of our comprehension. We can't see it, we can't imagine it. So we might as well just stick to what we can prove, and there is no curvature. And if they say there is, then you say, well, just like you did, have you got a photo? And if you haven't got one now, please can you send me one by email? Here's my details. I'm really happy to look into new information. I haven't got a closed mind. I'm keeping an open mind about this. But I haven't found one in 2 years. And so I'm pretty sure you won't either. So rather than theorize about what shape the Earth might be, let's just agree that the globe is a lie. And if I can't get them on the globe lie, because some people say they don't care what's the relevance, I say there's a lot of money. There's over 100 million a day that goes towards Hollywood that could go towards researching illnesses, cures and preventions. We could end poverty. And then if that doesn't get them, I say, did you know that the geoengineering program is run by NASA? And people can't believe that NASA could be doing something that might have potential side effects on our health. So I've got 3 ways to get to people. It's to say, I don't know what shape the Earth is. I don't care. I'm only bothered about the space scam because of the massive amounts of money. I don't like the manipulation of them telling us what it is when we're better off having our own imagination, keeping an open mind and trusting our senses. And if you're not sold by all that, well, guess what? They're spraying the skies. And if we're not, let's not call them chemtrails, because then I'm a conspiracy theorist. Let's call it what they call it, geoengineering. And let's be serious. There's possibly side effects, as there's no independent investigation. And I just keep drilling them things through to people. And eventually I find that they're going to take it home and think about it. Because one of the 3 they're going to see as a serious thing. So it's just drilling and trying to remind people that you don't have the answers. We have the questions that aren't being answered. We can prove that it doesn't curve. So it looks like the face of the Earth is flat, but we don't know. We just know that it doesn't curve as much as they tell us. So it's either a lot bigger ball or it's a different shape. The point is we're being lied to. And like Zoom Truth says, all these motions, it can't be possible that the stars haven't changed in 10,000 years since the Egyptians put the pyramids under Orion's belt? Because they're still under Orion's belt. So something's wrong with the model that we're being told.
Yeah.
I don't have the answers. I'm just proposing all these conundrums, and I would like you guys to go and think about them. And instead of recommending people to go and watch videos, I've stopped saying that. I now ask people to do the science for themselves. Like Harry, science is supposed to be observable, measurable, and repeatable. So I'm just teaching people. I'm not preaching a model. I'm teaching people how to go and verify there's no curve, how to verify stars are a lot closer and not what we're told, and how we can see the moon in the east and the sun in the west, or how we can test the moonlight with water and a thermometer. I'm saying, look, it's really easy science. If you would like to do it, you can verify your faith. If you don't want to do it, that's okay, but just acknowledge that you're refusing to verify your faith. You're choosing to be a fanatic about your religious beliefs.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, if it's going to be a longer conversation with someone, then yeah, to get people to do their own tests and experiments and observations and that, you know, get them to do their own. But I mean, we do get these very quick, you know, like 5-minute talks with people. That's what the videos are, and the leaflets and websites to send them somewhere, because of the census that we're having, that we're all experiencing. I mean, like, for people to go and do their own research on the internet, they're going to struggle now. I mean, like, it is getting difficult. I mean, like, you type in what's it, flat earth in YouTube or Facebook and that, or Twitter or wherever, and it's getting harder and harder to send them to a website. I think on our website should have experiments that you can do at home for yourself. I so think that that's a great idea. You know, do that.
Yeah, Jason, one more thing to add, and that is, you know, you should be thinking about this as a representation of the public for those that are watching later or live. So you're going to get those that are resistant and quite banging heads. They want to bang heads with you because it's just so foreign to them. All they can do is scorn it, ridicule it. But one of my favorite personal development coaches, Jim Rohn, he used to say the greatest presentation of all time was the Sermon on the Mount. And even then, there were laughers, mockers, those that wanted to throw stones, and still there were 2,000 that walked away believers. So in that sense, it's quite a similar concept, in that you're trying to get into people's belief systems and thought processes, and you should go with that. You see, not wrestle with it, because those are just the numbers. That's just the way it goes. You know, there'll be 2 that go, I'm in, 2 that go, you're going to have to sell it to me, 2 that go, you really need to twist my arm because I'm resisting, and the other 4 are somewhere between, you're a nutter and you need sectioning, mate, to you what on earth are you talking about? And, you know, getting quite obnoxious and resistant because it's just triggering them. You know, it's activating that programming that's been run. You know, they've either been to NASA, they've been to science degree level or something like that, and they just will not concede any of that or give any of that up. So that's why I say, you know, treat it like a numbers game. You know, your job is to find the ones that are saying yes, spend the most time with them. Those that get a bit antsy, let them get antsy, because those that are watching will see it. Equally, those that are curious will go, why is he going off the deep end? You know, and it's a fantastic social experiment, especially for those that have never come across it. They're calmly digesting this material you're giving in a calm, measured, adult fashion. And you've got a guy at 50 years old losing the plot over there because something's triggered him, you know. So I think, you know, just go with the numbers. Don't wrestle with it. That's just the way it is. And your job is to get to the 2 that are going to pile in.
Yeah. Howard, you come across so confident when you're out there. have you always been this way, or is it, or did you just throw yourself in the deep end thing and try like stage fright? I have to get on with this. I've just got to do it.
To be honest, I've always suffered with anxiety since I was about 11, 12, 13. I remember having like lots of anxiety, and I didn't know what anxiety was. It's only later on in life I learned the word, and I was like, oh, okay. And I find that jumping out of your comfort zone is the best way to combat anxiety. You know, you've got to learn how to meditate in stressful situations, be cool and under pressure. So practice makes perfect. And so my first videos were not so confident, and I'm getting better with time. I'm also finding that where I'm going out and talking about it every day at every opportunity, that's okay. But I only go out with my camera and record on the days that I'm feeling confident and feeling that I can handle. So, because I don't want to be parroting a bad message. I don't want people to see me a nervous wreck. I want people to see me confident. I want people to see me in control. I want people to see that I can have friendly conversations with people, that even if I get into a bit of a debate with them, at the end, they're hugging me and thanking me for helping them see with real eyes. And I think that's the best thing. If we show people that you can go out and flirt with beautiful women, you can go out and talk to big groups of lads that would normally scare you, because you've actually got some substance. You're actually going to interest them with something that they might not appreciate at first, but everybody will remember that you were the person that woke them up, and they will appreciate that for life. So you'll make some lifelong friends, and you'll also find that you can talk to more beautiful women than you've ever had the bottle, because you're not thinking about just sex. You're actually thinking about something a bit more important. So you'll actually come across as a more interesting and a person with a bit more depth. So you've got much better chances, as well as finding it easier to chat up beautiful women and big lads that you'd normally maybe be intimidated by. It's just practice makes perfect. And I think as well, when you know that you're doing something for a good cause, you do keep looking at the bigger picture, and you try and keep focused on the main goal.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, good. I mean, for myself, I was terrified when I first started, absolutely terrified. I think I was sick that morning, literally, so terrified. But I get angry with myself. I get so upset and thinking that I don't like feeling that way. So I get angry, I get upset with myself, and that's so I'm very stubborn. And I think it's my stubbornness that says, you know, like my being terrified of it, you know, like it's just not going to get in the way. I'm still going to do it anyway. I read a book years ago called Feel the Fear, but Do It Anyway. And I think it's, oh God, sometimes I could kill that Harry, you know, John Smith Global, because, you know, like, if I had my way, I think he'll tell you, you know, like I'd probably still be a flat earth couch potato, you know, like I'm just talking about it and that. And but he motivated me so much to get off my backside, because I felt a little bit just so out of my depth with it all. You know, I felt very good. I like that T-shirt there, Robin. But yeah, I mean, like, Harry is he was the master for me to get out there on the streets, and as I say, I mean, like, feel the fear but do it anyway. And I think you're right. Once you start learning what it is that you want to say, then it just gets easier and easier.
Yeah.
And easier. And I found that myself. It is getting easier, but I struggle on remembering. You know, I'm not quick at remembering stuff, you know, like, so I kind of drift from subject to subject a little bit, but I'm sure I'm still learning myself, and I'm getting better myself. Robin comes across like a master interviewer. You do, Robin.
Well, it's not intentional. Just try and have a conversation. Try. It's really hard not to talk on top of someone, and it's really hard not to turn into a salesman. So you've got to try and have a proper two-way conversation. It's quite hard. Yeah, it is quite hard.
And are you nervous? Are you scared in any way, shape, or form?
Do you know, when I always start when I walk the dog, and I kind of psych myself up, I kind of talk myself through how it's going to feel as I'm walking the dog. So I do a couple of laps, then I stop, then I set up the banner, then my heart goes 10 to the dozen. put the microphone on, try and set up my camera jig thing, then give up because I can never set it properly. and then I think, well, let's just give this a whirl. And the moment the first conversation starts, you think, yeah, this is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
And you get the energy comes through you, and then you just feel absolutely spot on, because the moment someone is curious, you think, this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
Because you want to give them something to think about. And you did a really good job on Sunday, mate, because you had a good mix, didn't you? You had Flat Earther at the beginning.
Well, I was just about to show you one, so
yeah,
hold that thought.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, you had a good mix. You had a good mix. Didn't you?
So we were talking about like confidence, and like I'm going to share. Some people have probably already seen this, so I'm just going to quickly share this. And can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes, you can see that, Howard. I think you can. So this is Dino. Can you hear that okay?
Why would they lie? Like, what's so bad about it?
Just.
And every single space program that's out there in the whole world, it's things called the Antarctic Treaty. Yeah, nobody's allowed to go there. You will get shot out the sky. No one's allowed to go to Antarctica. Every single space agency in the whole world are in a group together. And if you look at their symbols, they've got the same little symbol. They're sworn to secrecy because they're in this together to make money out of people and brainwash them and think that we're just a tiny little speck floating in the middle of nowhere.
How would that make people money?
It makes billions of money to lie to these companies because they're creating. They're underwater. They're underwater in massive swimming.
That's Dino.
Check it out, and you've got little.
You know, like a leaflet.
No.
No, you all know where you live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they can pretend that they're funding to go to space and moon and that when it's not even there.
But then, what do they need the money for?
To line their pockets. To make money out of people, to con us, to make you think that you're nothing and you're just a little speck of dust floating through nothing. You know that water always goes level, doesn't it? So that's an experiment, isn't it? No matter how much you do it, it always be level. So try putting water on a spinning ball. No one's ever proved gravity. It's a theory. We're being taught pseudoscience theory. Because your weight, density. Gravity doesn't exist. It's a theory. It's magic. It's a theory.
Okay, then how do you weigh less on the moon? There's less gravity.
Then no one's been to the moon. No one's been to the moon. Stanley Kubrick, produced. It was all done in the studio. It's all done in the studio.
It's possible for them to be done in the studio.
It's not.
Well, there are shadows.
You need to research it.
When the moon landing happened, they didn't have that technology, or they did, but it would be so expensive. You might as well just go to the moon.
No,
£53 million.
It's all about money. That they're brainwashing you.
And Nixon was kind of.
There you go. I'm just going to stop there. So that was Dino.
He needs to come on tour, Jason.
Wasn't he brilliant? I mean, this is just a member of the public off the street. Never met him before, and I thought, oh god, he's coming across so much better than me. So Dino, if you're ever watching this, definitely get hold of me, get in contact with me, because if you're local, I need a wingman.
And he's an absolute legend because he was very popular in the live chat as well, wasn't he?
Wasn't he? He was just brilliant. He was just so confident. Yeah. I thought it was.
Yeah.
What do you think of that then, Howard?
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. He was not letting him shoot him down. He was keeping his cool, but he was remaining the authoritative tone, and he was telling him, like, go and look, go and research. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm telling you to go and check for yourself, and that's brilliant. And I think that's one thing that again Harry got through to me, that like we don't need to be preaching beliefs. We just need to tell people and try and inspire people to go and check for themselves and tell them that it's their choice if they want to or not, but they really should, because otherwise it's blind faith, and they really should go and check.
Yeah,
using science rather than that was my point. This is why we have to stop recommending videos, because we're telling people that they have beliefs and faith in secondary information. So we can't really go and tell them to go and look at other secondary information. We've got to tell them you've got to stop having faith in secondary information and use personal experience of reproducible evidence. So I think teaching the experiments, like he was saying, like pour water out, you know, put it on any surface you want, it'll be flat. He's giving them an experiment. So there's loads of experiments we can share with people. I just stick to the same 3. Like I said, use a camera to check stars distance and what they are not. You use a thermometer to check the moonlight, and use a camera as to confirm what your eyes see at water level, that you'll never lose buildings in the daytime, and you'll even see street lights at nighttime. So I just keep using the same 3 experiments because, like Robin says, we can be like salesmen, but you can be a good salesman. So my pitch, my salesman pitch, is to keep improving. So from every experience, good and bad, I try to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, like yourself, you learn from my mistakes and stuff. So you think, what could I have done better? And you have to question yourself, you have to question your method, and you think, okay, it works for these people, but maybe for that kind of person, we'll try adding this or starting from this point in the future. And we're getting better and better, and we're all teaching each other. So my main advice is teach experiments, don't preach beliefs, and that way they can't put us in the corner as often. But yeah, great job.
Good. Anything more to add there, Robin, before I move on?
I guess you've got some more of the content from Sunday, so go for it.
It was. I just wanted to quickly show you Matt, and Matt is not your typical person seeking out the truth. He was he wanted more than what I'm kind of used to. I mean, normally people are a little bit inquisitive, but Matt was extremely inquisitive. He is what I
see the guy at the end.
At the end, he is one that I call he's a proper truth seeker. You know, you can hear it, but he just doesn't know who he is yet. But like, he's asking all the right questions. So I'm just going to quickly show you Matt. And there we go. You should be able to see that now, yeah?
Yeah, I can see
I
it.
just, you know, like,
I want to believe you, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
Oh, him, yeah.
I enjoy that there is real being.
All I want you to do is watch the videos.
Yeah, I will be watching them. Because this will make sense to me.
Yes.
Why is it like that? It should be like that.
Right.
But what I'm saying to you is, surely, I mean, even back in the old days, we travelled thinking there's going to go off the edge of the world.
Yes.
Is that not programming
now? Remember, in our school, we were only taught one view of our planet, this globe, this globe there. Yeah. We were never given an alternative. So is that not programming then? Because I have this picture of this galleon ship, like, what's going off the edge?
What's given you? What is the
number one proof?
The killer one proof.
It's land that we shouldn't be able to see.
Yeah.
It really is for me, because look, I mean, there has to be a mathematical formula. There has to be. So once you're happy that the maths is right, when I'm over there in Brixton, I can see Exmouth over there.
Shouldn't be. It should be like that.
That's right. It should be below. Okay, so that is for me. But it's everybody has different journeys. Other people just look up there and they say that's right.
Is if you had a bloody boat and you just went in one direction.
But you're not allowed to go as far as the 60th parallel, Antarctic treaty.
Really? And that's to prove that that's where the edge could be.
That's where. Well, there might not be an edge, but there could be, because I don't know.
You're not allowed in there.
So that's right. So I can't say either way.
So we'd never know.
But I do know that water has to be contained.
Just
be a shoreline or cliffs or what.
Water has to be contained.
That's an obvious.
I mean, why isn't? Well, it makes. If that is the case, and do you believe we're in the universe still with it? Because otherwise we'd just be falling, wouldn't we? Yeah. There's nothing underneath us and we're not in orbit.
Okay, so we have this atmosphere, we have this air pressure, okay? And this air pressure, okay, if we're in the vacuum of space, why isn't all this air around us been sucked off into space? Or, sorry, blown into space?
So what do you think? We're just dormant where we are?
We are stationary on this earth.
Everything about us is moving.
Yeah, bang on.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to.
That's it.
I'm not trying to debunk you like some of these.
Well, no, but that's where you should be. I tried my best to debunk this.
No, I don't want to. I want to believe it.
Okay. I was the other way, because I thought this is nonsense.
No, I want to.
Yeah.
I mean,
a lot of it makes sense.
So like you said, if you're on, I've been on Concorde.
Okay.
It goes 1,200 miles an hour. It actually goes faster than the sun is again.
Okay.
So whatever you're doing then,
Yeah,
means the sun is orbiting.
well, that's right. That's right. But you can still be going around Concorde, going around the continents.
Yeah, because obviously it's not
What it
going.
is?
It's not going out this way.
It's like, look. There's a.
There you go. So that was
Brilliant.
Matt. And I'd say he's not your typical flat earther, I didn't think. I haven't really met anyone like Matt who wants flat earth. And me, I was like the opposite. I was saying, no, this really can't be true. Or I don't want this. It can't be. No. But he's the opposite. You know, so I found it really, I wasn't prepared for Matt. So it's very different.
He was brilliant. He's I'm sorry, Howard, if you're talking, but he was really pushing for, like you say, for more. But you're probably not used to someone just leaning so hard, because he's willing to go all the way for the purpose of the conversation, and not everyone's willing to do that. I've got to share something that happened this week. I just started a new job. Someone came back from holiday. They noticed my chemtrails post on Facebook, and we went straight to flat Earth in 20 minutes. And she entertained everything. Her mind was so open. I said to her, I commend you. You know, you've taken all this information in, and you're still asking questions. And she didn't flip her lid or anything. So some people can go straight there.
Yeah.
And I was gobsmacked, and she and I getting on like a house on fire. And I said, I'm really not sure I should give you my crown jewels. Like on day one, we've only been sat next to each other for 2 hours. Yeah. And I'm already telling you I'm a flat earther at work. Could go all sorts of wrong. But no, she's good. She's very good.
So anyway, Matt, back to Matt, Howard. What? I mean, have you met anyone like Matt who kind of wants more, you know, in such a way?
Yeah, I've met a few people that want all the answers. Most of the people want the answers to debunk us, but there are the few people that are like, okay, but if the Earth's flat, what about this? What about that? And they're excited. And I just keep trying to remind people that the priority is exposing the lies, the facts. What do we know? What can we prove? Like Harry always said, fire is hot, water is wet, ice is cold. Let's stick to what we know and what we can verify, and then we can theorize later, because really that's not the most important thing. I like what Robin said as well, that sometimes it's easier to chip away at people by getting them to a common ground. So like I've used geoengineering, chemtrails, most of the time. That's my best way in to get people to say, you've seen this in the sky, yeah? Oh yeah, they're doing this, they're doing that, and who knows the side effects? Did you know that they're trusting NASA? And they're like, oh yeah, really? And I show them the PDF from the Spanish government website. As soon as they agree that they shouldn't really just trust NASA, I'll say, you know why I don't trust NASA? And then I'll start hitting them with the evidence from, there's no stars behind the recordings, there's bubbles, there's this, that, the other. And I'll say, plus science can prove they're lying to us. And then I go into the flat earth stuff. And today I was talking to some of the mud flood researchers while we were hiking up the mountains. And I was saying, you know, maybe we could integrate all of these researchers, because there's some people that might not buy into the geoengineering of the flat earth, but they'll be hooked when they see photos of old cities with no people, or they'll see the evidence of mud floods when they've excavated and seen main entrances and windows under the ground. So it's like, we don't know what caused the flood, but we know something's happened and we're being lied to about history because it's his story. And so if that's what gets people to say, oh yeah, we're being lied to, then start with that, you know. So it's really just mixing it up, trying to judge your recipients, like as if I say a salesman, you try and judge your customer, and you know which way to, or you try different ways to attack it, and hope that they're going to bite on one of the interests. Because once you've got their interest, or even better, if you can make them laugh, you know. So I even say to people, Michael Jackson's the only person that could do the moonwalk. And they laugh. And once they've laughed, I say, so don't believe this about this and that, the other about the moon, do you? And they're like, no, I've always had my doubts. And as soon as you've got them on an agreement of something, then you can unravel the rest.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I sometimes get excited sometimes that I've learned something new that I didn't know about, and sometimes I want to use that information, and I'm not sure what the response is going to be, and I might learn and then adapt how to actually use this new information. So the new thing that I kind of learned in the last this month was a little bit more about inverse square law. Okay. And it was the inverse square law of light, so I'd learned a little bit about it, but not enough to kind of like challenge people on the stars, for instance. Like these stars are meant to be trillions of miles away, and I wanted to use this new inverse square law of light in an argument, in a debate, an argument. On how to actually bring it into the subject. So I had to go on Sunday, brought it into the subject. But what I found is there's an awful lot of people out there that are like me, that don't have an education background in science. So half of them are thinking, what you're talking about, mate. Inverse square law. You could be saying black cats, give off light. So inverse square law is doesn't mean an awful lot, that I found, because when I was quoting this inverse square law to people, it went over the top of their head, so it didn't mean nothing. It wasn't an argument in the end.
Yeah, you have to kind of. I think my methodology is to do a scattergun of facts whilst I'm having the conversation. So I draw the attention to the UN flag, and then I say, when I look at in the stars, the North Star stays still, and the Orion's belt's got 3 stars above each peak of each of the 3 pyramids at Giza. If we're moving all this distance, etc., etc., and I guess you meet people where they're at. So if you've got a particularly brainy person who wants to throw science at you, then the way I handle that is the pseudoscience argument that Anthony's taught me recently, which is we have to be careful with pseudoscience, because unless it follows the scientific method, i.e. an observation, an experiment with I'm tongue-tied tonight. A hypothesis where you're trying to prove the cause of the effect, and you have an independent variable and a dependent variable.
Yes.
Then it's not science. And actually doing this with my second cousin at the minute, he's doing quantum mechanics in his 4th year at Manchester Uni, so he's a complete boffin, and I'm using Anthony's emails and subsequent Skype calls and reference material to tackle this, but boiling it down to simple statements. You say, if it's not following the scientific method, it's not science. So the tests and observations that they tried to prove gravity with didn't have this level of this standard of evidence. So on that basis, by definition, it's pseudoscience. And when you do it that way, people can't argue. They just can't argue. And most people do back down at that point. Unless you've got a degree in physics, you're probably not going to go much further than that. Yeah, and that's how I address the gravity question now. Is that, and I sometimes do. We need faith to go from the theory to the water to a ball, but much simpler explanation would be buoyancy and density, or relative density.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I would cope with that.
Well, Howard, in the chat, I noticed on Sunday in the chat, people were suggesting that, forget about all that, just look at, tell them water. And they're right, but sometimes sticking to the very, very basics it isn't enough for some people. It just isn't enough, because I'm sorry, if anyone ever approached me and said water is flat and that's it, okay, so what? That's not enough to convince me of anything. You know, like, I wanted more, even though I'm not educated to know more. He's doing a right fashion parade here, isn't he? So
I'm having a laugh.
so where are you with that, Howard? I mean, like,
Robin's lifting the lid. Well, I agree with you. I think it's a yes/no answer. Okay. One, I recommend stick to what you're good at. So you've got to show your confidence, and it's got to be real confident. So that's why I stick to my 3 simple experiments, because that's what I keep working on. I've done the experiments for myself, so I know from personal experience. So I have that confidence there. And because I'm always talking about the same experiments, I'm getting better and better at them. But I agree with you as well that sometimes those 3 experiments aren't going to get through to people. So then I've got to change my tune. And that's when I bring in the geoengineering. That's when I bring in the manipulation. If that doesn't get them, I try and use examples of the predictive programming. Like, I've got print-offs of the Twin Towers getting blown up in many cartoons and videos, movies, years before it happened. So I can relate to people on, do you trust the government when you know that they can do this predictive programming? What do you think about Bin Laden getting dumped at sea? Don't you think that's a bit strange that we didn't get his body back to make sure it was him? Don't you think, and once you can kind of break people on something to do with the system, that's when you can start chipping away at the other stuff. So I do think it's good to have like a focus on what your main objective is about getting people to do the experiments, for example, but also have a few plan Bs, plan Cs, just to make sure you can get them to relate to something that they can understand or something that interests them. A quick one about gravity, I find gets people every time. I'll say, Harry got me on the, helium balloon goes up, doesn't it? Where's the gravity? So I'll elaborate on that. So I now turn around to people and say, so when you're having a cigarette and those heavy metals come out and smoke, where's the gravity on them heavy metals? And the wordplay makes people think about it. And before they can answer me about it being heat and heat expanding the molecules and all that, I'll say, look at rain. I'll say, vapor defies gravity. Steam rises. I say it's only when it condenses into a cloud, and I put emphasis on the word condense. I say it condenses into a cloud and then raindrops. I say because it's density. So I use the word like twice. I give them a little positive priming, because I look at it like this. We even should point out to people all the different techniques of manipulation being used on us to condition society. Like I keep saying, negative priming. People should look into negative priming because it's one of the main weapons used against us. Repetition is used against us in music and television. They just keep drilling us with the same news articles in the newspapers and the same news channel 10 news or whatever. So we have to point out that they're using repetition and using negative priming. They're using humor to deflect. And I'll say to people, look, the reason you're laughing at me is because all the idols that are all the science spokesmen that you idolize, they use humor to deflect from answering the conundrums that they're presented with their model. And the problem is, because the people you idolize are using humor to deflect, you're using humor to deflect. And I try and break people on that. And I say, look, there's backmasking in music. There's subliminals in symbols that we can hold up in our hands. There's subliminals on the TV. There's subliminals in the overtones and undertones of music. And again, that's something that people can't deny. So by pointing out that all of these facts prove that we're being conditioned, you might be able to warm them up for the guess what. And the biggest part of the puzzle is that they taught us not to trust our senses with 4 years old, so that they could take our money and poison us. And I use the donkey with the blinkers and say they form our beliefs so that our spectrum of understanding and imagination is limited, hence that they can dangle the carrot of materialism in front of us and know that how to turn us on and keep us entertained with the bread, the wine, and the Colosseum.
Very good. Very good. It wasn't going to be a long night tonight. It was going to be a fairly short night. But I've got a question was asked to me, and in response, because I answered the question on Sunday there and then, but in response, when I got home, I did quite a lot of thinking about it, and I wanted to try something. So I put a short video together. It's about, I think it's about 7 minutes long. So I'm going to play that in a minute, and it's all in response to Aristophanes, because I get this question a lot. Because before balloons went up, and before rockets went up, and seeing the curvature of the Earth and how spherical it all is and all that, the only go-to is Aristophanes. Like to say, like 250 years before BC. Now, I don't accept that this guy ever existed. Like, as I say, there's no scrolls, there's no sculptures, there's no paintings, there's nothing. He just appears, and that's the way I always explain that out on the street. Like that. Like, so what? And the fact that I don't know if you guys ever seen it. They did an experiment and brought the light a lot closer and smaller and that, and you got the same sort of angles of light and that. But I wanted to try something else, so I put this short video together, which I'm going to play in a second, and we can have a little chat about it afterwards. So sit back and relax, and it's about 7 minutes long, so I'm going to show them the screen. And I think it is that one there. No, sorry, it's not that one. It'll be that one.
In the mid-20th century, we began launching satellites into space that would help us determine the exact circumference of the Earth, 40,030 kilometers. But over 2,000 years earlier in ancient Greece, a man arrived at nearly that exact same figure by putting a stick in the ground. That man was Eratosthenes, a Greek mathematician and the head of the Library of Alexandria.
Well, I don't think so. Who is Eratosthenes? There's nothing that proves that this guy ever existed. There's no sculptures, there's no paintings, there's no written form, there's no scrolls. There's nothing that proves that this guy ever existed. It's just a fancy story.
Eratosthenes had heard that in Syene, a city to the south of Alexandria, no vertical shadows were cast at noon on the summer solstice. The sun was directly overhead. He wondered if this were also true in Alexandria, so on June 21st, he planted a stick vertically in the ground and waited to see if a shadow would be cast at noon. It turns out there was one, and it measured about 7 degrees. Now, if the sun's rays are coming in at the same angle at the same time of day, and a stick in Alexandria is casting a shadow while a stick in Syene is not, it must mean that the Earth's surface is curved. And Eratosthenes probably already knew that. The idea of a spherical Earth was floated by Pythagoras around 500 BC and validated by Aristotle a couple centuries later. If the Earth really was a sphere, Eratosthenes could use his observations to estimate the circumference of the entire planet. Since the difference in shadow length is 7 degrees between Alexandria and Syene, that means the two cities are 7 degrees apart on Earth's 360-degree surface. Eratosthenes hired a man to pace the distance between the two cities and learned they were 5,000 stadia apart, which is about 800 kilometers. He could then use simple proportions to find the Earth's circumference. 7.2 degrees is 1/50th of 360 degrees. So 800 kilometers times 50 equals 40,000 kilometers. And just like that, a man 2,200 years ago found the circumference of the entire planet with just a stick and his brain.
800 kilometers, they say. Let's see about that.
Google Maps. Alexandria. So Alexandria, and let's just move that out a little bit. Let's find Cyan. So as the crow flies, that around that. As the crow flies, we'll place that one on Alexandria, and let's have a look. That's Cyan there. As you see, that's 840 kilometers, not 800 kilometers, 840. Okay, there is a problem with that. The problem is that what about all the valleys and the hillsides and the mountains? I mean, and the Nile. So they didn't have aeroplanes in them days, 250 years BC. So they didn't have aeroplanes. So let's ask Google to do directions, because they couldn't have done 840 kilometers because you would need an aeroplane to do that, wouldn't they? Okay, so let's, because I think the directions from Google would be a lot better than Aristophanes saying to some Alexandria fella who lives there, you know, like, go and walk off to Cyan and I'll give you directions, you know, it's over that way. I'm sure Google Earth could do a lot better. So there you go. I'll just reverse them. So as you can see, we've got here 1,000 kilometers. Oh, this route includes a ferry. Oh, let's say ferry. It didn't have ferries in them days. So obviously there's a ferry crossing. Let's take the ferry away. Avoid ferries. 1,014 kilometers. Okay? 1,014 kilometers. Okay, so there we have. So, we're at 1,014 kilometers times 50 equals 50,700 kilometers. Okay, so let's just do quick kilometers to miles. We just say 57. So 50,700. So there you go. The new circumference of the Earth, according to Google Maps, will be 31,503 miles. Not your 24,900 miles. That's according to Google Maps, who I think would probably do a better job navigating from Alexandria to Cyan than what Aristophanes could do. It's just an opinion, but I think Aristophanes is a liar. Keep preaching education. I'm sure you know what you're doing. Teach the kids more lies, but I'm not buying it. There you go. Oops.
I thought that was brilliant. Well done, mate.
So yeah, it was just a bit of a thought experiment that I would try out, and I'm assuming that maybe Google Maps would probably do a better job than what Aristophanes could ever do if he was real.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's ironic that you could actually produce that result. I've got something which I was looking into today, actually, which ties up with that. Can you remember Mark Sargent did some expert witness interviews, and one of them was a planar surveyor. Can you remember that?
Yeah.
Is there any chance I could share screen? Because it's literally 2 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead if you. Yeah.
I've got it queued up, so let's give it a whirl.
Go ahead.
Tell me when you can see it.
Yeah.
I'll click play now and see if it works.
Robin, I'm not hearing any sound. Is there meant to be sound?
Oh, wow. Sorry, yeah, there is definitely sound. Hold on. I don't know why that's happened. I'll try again. Share. But there doesn't seem to be a sound setting that goes with it.
It's something's changed with Google Hangouts, isn't it?
No worries. I'll do it another time. We'll do it another time.
Okay.
While you're trying to figure that out,
sorry about that. That didn't work.
Sorry, go ahead, Howard.
Yeah, I've got two things that come to mind. One, how did they know when it was noon back then?
Well, it was mobile phone. Don't be stupid.
Do you know what I mean? It's like no one. The amount of times people throw that silly supposedly experiment at me. I've never actually turned around and said to people, well, one, how did he contact him at the same time, and how did they know the exact time of noon back then?
Yeah.
So it's a void. It's a complete joke. It's a farce. You cannot use that as evidence because they didn't have a clock. They didn't have mobile phones. So they wouldn't know what time noon was exactly, or they wouldn't be able to communicate to each other like you just said. So it's a complete joke. But another way of handling that, I found last week someone throwed that one at me, and I said, look, he said, how do you explain that then? How do you explain that? I said, it's quite easy. It's very observable. You can stand under your living room light and observe that your shadow is underneath you. Now take a few paces forward and look how your shadow's changed.
Yeah, definitely.
Simple. Go to your living room, turn on the light, stand under it, look at your shadow, walk away and watch how your shadow grows the further away you get from it. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, there you go. There's your experiment. And I say your living room's flat, isn't it? Or is your living room a ball?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so there you go. So I think Aristophanes, it is a question that we get quite a lot, like Aristophanes. I've heard it so many times, and I always resort to, go away and try and prove that he ever existed. But this young lad, he challenged me a bit further, and he said, well, yeah, but it would still, regardless of whether he's a figment of someone's imagination or fiction or whatever, the science still works out. But no, it kind of doesn't. Like as I say, it will work on a flat flat plane or not. It's the same sort of results. But anyway, this 7.2% angle. I mean, how would you know that one was it? From one distance to the other, you'd have to do it the following. I would say the following year on the same time, same day, wouldn't you? That would be that would be the only way. But I mean, I don't think that would be how accurate that would be. I don't know if if things would change. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so there's my.
What people keep doing is they keep using these stories, again, secondary information or mathematic calculations, and what we have to keep doing out is pointing to people.
Sorry, Jason, are you waiting for us?
Yeah.
No, you're okay for a second. He's talking for a second, Robin.
Yeah, I'm nearly done. Explanations are not
Sorry.
evidence. So just because they understand the shadow thing being on a ball, like you said, it works both ways. And at the end of the day, that's not proof. It's just an understanding. It's an explanation. It's a conclusion of results. It's not you're not verifying it, because the results can be interpreted different ways, but it doesn't counter as proof because it can be provable either way. So it's a void experiment, especially for the point that they didn't have the technology, like you say.
All right. I'm going to try and play this. What's it? Robin's given me this file to play, so I'm going to have a little go at trying to play it. So bear with us. Let me just find out where's my Skype. Turn my Skype on. So let's have a go at that one. Right. So I'm just going to share screens, guys. For it was 2 seconds. Let's have a go. And
is that it's like a giant jigsaw puzzle when you're talking about surveyors, when you're building towns or factories or whatever, and the puzzle pieces are odd sizes, they're supposedly odd elevations, and they have to take into account the curvature of the earth. But they all end up working fine. We all live in cities that are built, the streets are run just fine, the plants work, the stadiums work, the airports work, but it should not be that easy. If there's curvature of the earth, there should always be a conflict. But in 32 years of you shooting planes and butting up against every sort of plane you can imagine, from 1979 up until 2011, you never had a problem with anyone that had, you never got to a point where you guys were sitting around going, well, this doesn't match up because you forgot to take into account the earth is round.
Never once did that come up. Here, didn't even worry about it. And it's strange that it supposedly exists, but it's never a problem.
So do you know anybody off the top of your head, I got to ask, do you know anybody off the top of your head that actually, because remember, you're working on a planar model. Did you ever talk to anybody in your career who's actually using the geodetic model on their project?
No, and I've looked at plans, and you would think on the plans for major projects, it would say this came off of this. I mean, and it does know it came off of this marker.
What's interesting about this is the markers were actually put down by the USGS, which is the United States Geological Survey, which happens to be the creators of the azimuthal equidistant map, which happens to be a plane map. It's not a globe map. It's a plane map. The same group, basically the map makers, the premier map makers of the world, have a geodetic model out there that surveyors don't use. Yeah,
it's there, but don't worry about it.
So it's there, but don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Stop. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's brilliant. Right, guys. If you've got anything else to add, I'd say it's a short night. Robin's getting off. Early, and it's great to have you, Howard. I know you guys can't. Sorry, Robin can't hear you, Howard. But he has said he'd like to get another hangout with you soon, Howard, if you're up for that. So I don't know if you heard that, Robin.
Yeah, I did. That'd be an absolute pleasure, Howard. I'd love to meet you properly, mate.
Excellent.
I will listen it back now. My wife is watching Rod Stewart, bless her, in the centre of Bristol, so I've got to set off and pick her up in a minute, and I shall listen to it back and hear everything that you said.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's definitely a pleasure having you here, Howard. I think that you're amazing out there on the streets, and I think all together we all kind of learn so much off each other, don't we? I mean, you take snippets off everybody. I take 100%. Snippets off Harry there. Take snippets from Zoom and Josh, Authentic Attent, Marilyn, Spirit Level, and yourself. A little bit off everybody, we're all. I think we're all kind of stealing everybody's little bits of thunder.
You've got to know. Together, all those little bits make a much better package, don't they?
the big picture. If it
It's been a
wasn't
pleasure,
for you
Jason. I
guys,
enjoyed it myself.
Yeah, go ahead, Howard.
if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have ever gone out there myself. I did offer 10,000 euros on Spanish television. That just seemed the right thing to do because I'd done the experiment and I saw that I wasn't going to lose my money. And after that died down, as it was dying down, I come across John Smith's Globe Lie and I saw, okay, this is the next phase. This is the way we've got to go. And I'm trying my best to inspire people in Spain, like you guys inspired me. And today, like I said, I was hiking up the mountain with some mud flood researchers that have got YouTube channels. And I was saying to them, guys, I know that you're in a different field of expertise, of research, but please start recommending activism. Because at the end of the day, if you're recommending to your viewers that they start telling people about the lies, the cover-ups of history, it'll help people realize the globe lie. It'll help people realize the geoengineering. So at the end of the day, we all need to come together and learn off each other, like you say, but we need to influence the people that are listening to start going out and talking or doing it online. And like Roxanne said, pretend that you've only just heard something and you're thinking about it yourself. But yeah, promote the globe lie and don't fall into the preaching corner where people can point the finger and ridicule you and ask you for evidence. We're the ones looking for evidence. And God bless you all, and thank you, Harry, if you're watching. You did a great job inspiring me, and I'm sure there's many other people out there that might not be comfortable to record it, but I know there's a lot of people out there that really, really did learn a lot from the Globe Lie tool, and everyone in Europe's really looking forward to you guys coming around and giving it another shot, because we're going to keep chipping away at this until it's gone.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you very much, Howard. And Robin, I'll let you say your goodbyes.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. And globelie.co.uk to buy your T-shirt. I've had some people make comments about them. You can buy hoodies, T-shirts, polo shirts, men's, women's, all colours and sizes.
I will tell you, although that T-shirt, what Robin's got, the colours are awesome and all that. I had the polo, or was it neck one? I don't think the colours are that vibrant. You know, like, so if you're going to get one, get that T-shirt. They're really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, it's been a pleasure, Jason, and I can't wait to meet you properly, Howard. It's been a bit sort of disjointed from my perspective, but we'll do it properly one day soon, pal. No problem at all.
You've done well.
Thanks, Jason. Take care, buddy. See you again soon.
Okay, then. Cheers, then, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, cheers then, Howard. It's been a pleasure having you on. I'm one of your biggest fans, and I can't wait for this tour so that I can come around and meet you in person, and that'd be brilliant.
Jason, it's been an honour. Thank you so much for having me on here, and I look forward to next time, and definitely really look forward to meeting you.
All right then, and to everyone who's joined us this evening, I'm sorry, I've been trying to every once in a while trying to look in on my phone and see who's in the chat. It's been a bit of a struggle tonight because I can't really see you. So whoever's turned up tonight, thank you very much for joining us. And well, that's Globe Lie response over for another evening. Thanks very much.
Is outside of us. Look at the stars. Some of them are a million light years away.
Everyone has taught these lies when they go to school, but I won't go back to the ball. And anyone who doesn't look again must love the rulers. I won't go back to the ball. I believe that shit. 'Cause when you take a step back and look at it, gravity accounts for space and time. But I won't go back to the ball, 'cause I won't trust my senses over Newton and Einstein. I won't go back to the ball. I can't believe we believe that shit. 'Cause when you take a step back, look at it, it'll feel shows this CGI. Gotta ask yourself, why? So what exactly do you think almost there is proof? 'Cause I won't go back to the ball. All it takes is two clear eyes to see the earth don't move. I won't go back to the ball. We can't believe we believe that shit. 'Cause when we take a step back and look at it, it really shows this CGI. You really gotta ask yourself, why? Why don't they just take a photograph